World Economic Forum, right? We heard
Brian Stelter was there.
Brian Stelter.
Brian Stelter's now at the World Economic Forum. What can we do about these problems?
He looked very comfortable there, didn't he?
Of course he does. He's with evil lizard people that are trying to control the world. That's his bosses. He knows how to handle that kind of situation. I've been around these evil lizard people.
He looked as happy as maybe he's ever been.
Well, he's probably very excited just to be working again in any way, shape, or form.
That's true.
You know, I mean, he's not a guy that really is supposed to be in front of a camera, right? He's supposed to be a journalist, but he's not even good at that. So what he's doing now is holding water for the evil leaders of the world who want to institute hate speech policies nationwide and, you know, centralized digital currency, and they want everybody to eat bugs and you will own nothing and be happy. This is the fucking people he's working for now. Because he's basically a prostitute. And, you know, they hired him to go over there and do that. And he's like, what can we do? What can we do better?
Yeah.
What can we do different to get everybody to stand in line?
Yeah.
What can we do?
And for a journalist to sit there was that one moment where that woman, Vera Jourova, she's an EU official, and she's talking about hate speech laws, and then she touches the knee of somebody sitting next to her and saying, "You're going to have that in America soon."
Yeah.
And Brian Stelter is sitting there grinning.
Yeah.
You know, like that's not offensive to him. Like a European basically saying, "Oh yeah, you're going to have this too soon." Like even though it's completely antithetical to everything that we believe in this country. Like, you know.
Well, I think when you're working in a corporate news structure, and you could speak to this better than I could, obviously, but I think when you're working in an environment where you have editors and people in your ear, and you have producers, and you have narratives that the company is pushing, and then you have sponsorships that you're beholden to, it's very difficult to form any sort of problematic or controversial independent thought and then try to express it publicly. You're not going to do it. It's just too scary and sketchy. So when you're trying to keep that job, and here's a guy like Brian Stelter who already lost one of the biggest gigs in all of broadcast news. He was on fucking CNN. And then, you know, here he's standing there and they're saying, you're going to have hate speech laws in America too. He's like, okay, everything's running smooth. Everyone's smiling. Like he's not suitable for that role.
Right.
He doesn't belong there.
Right.
You don't have the stones to carry that conversation in a way that's going to benefit all these people that are listening to it. What you want is someone who's in that position that goes, hold on, what do you think is hate speech? What's hate speech to you, and what's hate speech to me, and who gets to decide?
Yeah, how is that going to be adjudicated? Like, what's your definition? What's your definition of hate? What's your definition of speech? Like,
exactly.
You know, I mean, like there are a lot of questions.
Does context matter? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And how do you decide? And obviously when you're looking at things over text, context gets very blurry. You don't know if someone's joking around. Like, there's so many pages that I get sent that are satire. I've got a hilarious one. There's a new one. Rick Rubin sent me this one. And he's like, this has got to be satire, right? And it's brilliant satire. But there's this person who has, like, the best version of super liberal, like, my children will never eat food from a gas stove, like that kind of shit. And there's so many of these, like, it's hard to tell who's what and what's real, and it's just one of those things where it's hard when you're looking things through text, because people are sneaky. They're really good at it, and people are so ridiculous in real life that a really subtle parody is very hard to discern. So is that hate speech? If someone's doing it as a parody, is that hate speech? Like, when do you decide that something is hateful?
And that's exactly why traditionally in this country, judges have always said, well, they haven't always said it, but they eventually came around to the idea that we can't involve ourselves in these questions. They're too difficult, and it's not our job. We're going to step in only the most extreme cases, right? So the current standard is, you know, the Supreme Court case, Brandenburg v. Ohio, which outlaws imminent incitement to imminent lawless action, right? So you have to be basically saying, you know,
let's go get them.
Go get them.
Break into the White House.
Shoot that person. Like, that's illegal speech, right? Anything short of that, we're going to stay out of it, because it's just too confusing. It's too complicated, right? Like, if you start getting into what's satire, what isn't, what's incitement, what isn't, like, as we see at companies like Twitter, you can spend endless amounts of time building sandcastles trying to figure out what is what, and it will always end in a place where the government interprets it to its greatest advantage.
Yeah.
And that's why we don't want it. I mean, ultimately it's not a good thing for most people.